Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Living with Parkinson's Meetup. I'm Chris Kruger, Program Manager for Educational Content with the Davis Phinney Foundation. And like our panelists, I also live with Parkinson's. I was diagnosed in March of 2020 at 37. So before we get started, I just want to ask the panel to go around and introduce themselves as usual and share where they're the question I would like them to add to their general introduction today is where you were on the spectrum of learn it all about Parkinson's or ignore and hide from Parkinson's when you were diagnosed. Did you take the learn it all or the this is not real approach? And I see Kat thinking about it, so I'm going to start with Kat and just dive right in. So Kat, let us know a little bit about what you think.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Kat Hill and I'm calling in today from High Prairie, Washington, which is where our property is. It's a gorgeous autumn day. I hope it's lovely where you are. Let's see. I think I knew a fair amount about Parkinson's when I was diagnosed because my dad had it. And I think I was sort of in the denial, like I'm sure they must be wrong mode. So I think I was in the denial when I was first diagnosed.
Okay, Christy, you're next on my screen. So how about you introduce?
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Monica. I live in Troy, New York. I'm originally from Connecticut, and I really pretty much knew I had Parkinson's when I was diagnosed. I knew a long time before that. It was just crazy being diagnosed. It was just made it more real. When I said it out loud, it wasn't real, but when a medical professional did, it became more real and a little bit scary.
A little bit. I understand. Okay, so Doug, I see you next on my screen. How about you go ahead?
Okay, Chris. Hi, everyone. Doug Reed, zooming in from Lafayette, Colorado. I was diagnosed in 2010 at the age of 36. So I've been living with Parkinson's for 13 years now. I had DBS about 10 years ago, I'm sorry, 3 years ago. And when I was diagnosed, I kind of took the learn it all attitude. I got a book all about Parkinson's. I scoured the Michael J. Fox website. But I didn't reach out to anyone who actually had Parkinson's. It was 10 years or so after diagnosis before I went to a support group. So I kind of had a hybrid approach to learning and then denying.
Understood. Okay, Brian, tell us.
Hi, so Brian Reedy, I'm in Westminster, California. I pretty much didn't want to know too much because I didn't want to get noise in my head. I was still trying to teach. So my wife went the avenue of looking everything up on the internet, which was more scary for her, I think. And then finally, so I was diagnosed in 2010. And 2012, I finally went to a conference. I thought, if I'm going to learn at a professional conference. So it was for young onset, put on by one of the groups, I forget who. So kind of denial more than anything, I guess.
Okay, Robin.
Hey everybody, Robin Morades, normally from Charlotte, North Carolina, but calling in today from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was a 10, learned it all. Still learning, still looking, get sick of the Parkinson's news updates in my email box, but I'm on the learn it all spectrum.
I think I was a 10 too. I dove right in.
Me too.
Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Hesford calling in from El Paso, Texas. I was diagnosed in 2018 when I was 35, and I immediately started sharing on social media. So I pretty much dove right into it. When I got diagnosed, I was like, I knew it. Finally, an answer. I mean, not the answer that anybody wants, but was relieved to finally get some answers and know that I was right the whole time. That's what matters the most, is that I'm right.
That or having somebody to blame. That's also super important in my world.
Super helpful.
All right, Heather.
So true.
when I was first diagnosed, I think it was I was first told I might have around 2010, 2011, and then I took the meds in 2012. But the first symptoms were way back when my daughter was born, so about 20, 22 years ago, in that range. But I was insufferable, completely in denial. I'm like, I'm going surfing, I'm posting pictures on the interwebs. This is going to be easy. I've got this. Parkinson's, no problem. I'm going to take the world by storm. I'm going to change the face of Parkinson's. I was insufferable and obnoxious when I was first diagnosed. It was awful. I believe there's a pre-Parkinson's personality and a Parkinson's personality that starts out very like gung-ho, because you get this surge of these dopamine agonists coming in. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. And Tom, the question on the table is, when you were diagnosed, were you where were you on the spectrum of learn it all or hide and ignore?
Well, thanks, Chris. I saw all this happening, but I was in the participant side, so you guys couldn't see me and I couldn't see you. So thanks for rescuing me there. Hey, I was definitely a 10 on the learn it all part of that. And that's what landed me in the hospital with an anxiety attack. You know, I walked out of the doctor's office that day and he said, "No, don't look this up on the internet." Well, that's a dumb thing to say, I think. They just give you no guidance on where to go to look. So, but I got through all that and here I am today.
All right. Well,
glad
thanks,
you made
everybody.
it, Tom. I'm glad to have you on the other side.
I just want to add, so I didn't need to look a lot of stuff up because teaching, and so we talk about Parkinson's a lot in my classes, and also the lab that I was in for graduate school, half the lab worked in neural stem cells. So, and funny, I'm the one who has a neurodegenerative disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you have the resources around you, though. It can be helpful if you want to learn more, right? So there's pluses and minuses. Okay, so I wanted to give a quick intro to what we're going to talk about today, and I want to just acknowledge that this topic was inspired by a comment from someone in the audience in August. And what happened was an audience member named Deb wrote in that she envied the humor that we've developed, and that she tries hard but just can't get over the sadness and grief. And that really stuck with a number of us. It certainly stuck with me. And as I reflected on it, I thought, how are we doing? And are we actually okay? And so today, that's what the panel is going to talk about. The ongoing struggles that might not always rise to the surface during these meetups. So what behind the scenes is sort of the lingering struggle for us. And Tom is going to kick us off, and I'm going to pass it off to him in just a second. But I want to say that in the chat, please, if you want to share where you were on the spectrum of learn it all or run and hide, and also if you want to share what your struggle is, we'd love to hear from you. So please chime in as much as you feel comfortable. So Tom, why don't you get us started?
Thanks, Chris, and thanks again for helping me get my technology ironed out here. So that's just one of the many things going on in my life these days. Yeah, this was a very intriguing topic to me. I think we all have to face that at some point in time, whether we're going to attack the problem by learning it all or by running and hiding. That's all got to be addressed. But I think most of us, especially on this council, tend to be optimists, and so that really makes a difference. Now, not everybody is an optimist, right off the bat. Some people are more the other way, and I always found myself to be more optimistic than not. But I also found myself running and hiding behind the Parkinson's mask. So if I didn't want to do something, I would use Parkinson's as my excuse. I can't do that because of Parkinson's. I can't do that because of Parkinson's. And it reminded me a lot of when I was a young boy, and I would tell my dad, I can't play baseball. I can't do that. And he's like, just give it a try. Let's go give it a try. And so gradually, I heard my dad's voice talking to me over the years, and I would hear him say, don't lose the battle before, don't lose the war before you fight the battle. So that meant to me that I would try to talk myself into the things that I would try to talk myself out of. And I started this a couple of years ago, conscientiously. It was my New Year's resolution, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it really knelt and dealt hard with the situation, but it knelt on the issue of being an optimist. I really had to pull that card out and say, are you an optimist or are you not? So, and that's, I think, what people would talk about here a little bit, but I think it's important that we embrace who we are and how we deal with things, to the point where I would challenge everyone on this call, my colleagues, as well as all those that are listening in, to try one time at least to try to talk yourself into something that you would normally talk yourself out of because you had Parkinson's. And that's gone a long way for me. It's done really well. So I think when you ask the question, are we really okay? Well, no, I'm not okay. I mean, I have Parkinson's, but this year also have dealt with a lot of other significant health challenges, including prostate cancer and pulmonary hypertension. And lately I've had an inclusion in my right eye. And so yesterday I had an injection and it went south. And my eye, I looked like I had a baseball in my head. And I sent Chris a note, I can't play tomorrow. And then I thought, well, why am I trying to talk myself out of this? I'm going to talk myself back in. The baseball went away, thank God. But I was back at the doctor this morning at 7:30 a.m. trying to get this under control so I could be here today, because that's the kind of things that embracing Parkinson's in this community means to me. So it's not always easy. It won't ever be. But it is surmountable, I think, to the point where we can do the things we want to do and live well today. So I think I'm going to throw that out to whoever wants to take a shot and give us your take on it as well. Kat, I see your hands up there.
Yeah, I think for me that I too am fundamentally an optimist. And I think Parkinson's has really challenged that for me and kind of taught me lessons that perhaps I didn't want to learn, but perhaps now I can be a little grateful for. I think the process of incremental loss is big. I think that with a progressive disease that changes over time, no matter what you do, right? No matter how much you exercise, no matter how much you follow advice, no matter how well you take your medicines, it's learning to constantly pivot and how to manage the new normal, and the normal keeps changing. And so I saw somebody say in the chat that they try to look more forward than backwards about what it was like before Parkinson's. And I know that I grieve each incremental loss. So a good example for me, it's a pretty tangible example, is I have a lot of dystonia in my fingers, and I've been getting treatment for some time for my middle finger dystonia, and now it's spreading to my ring fingers on both hands. And so the treatment for this is that I'm grateful I have an option for, is Botox injections in the muscles to deaden it. But with each incremental finger, I'm losing more and more function. I'm realizing there's yet, with a second finger affected, things that I can't do. And I try really hard to focus on just the now and not anticipate that 10 fingers rather than 4 will soon be affected. But I think the grief process for each loss is hard. And I think it's important to grieve what's gone and then try hard to integrate it into the now and move on to the new normal. And that's hard. It's hard to do. So, I cry, I rage, I talk to friends, I talk to a therapist, I am treated for anxiety ongoing. I've been struggling with some apathy, I think we're all dealing with it. And yeah, I think it's hard, and I don't think I have an answer. I have tools that work for me. And each time I get through it, though, I remember, gosh, I've survived other moments like this, and okay, hopefully I'll get through this one too. But yeah, I don't know if that answers it, but I also wrote a book about it, which helped. And I'm working on another book as more into the mid years with Parkinson's disease rather than just sort of the early years. So anyway, that has helped me.
Let's see. Christy, I think, yeah.
So I think that it should be expected that having Parkinson's, we would have some depression. I mean, besides the fact that it is a symptom, but it just makes so much sense. Look, thinking from that biochemical perspective. And we're low in dopamine, so of course your serotonin is not going to be right. It makes sense because everything feeds back into each other. So if you aren't on an antidepressant and need help, don't be ashamed of taking anything.
Yeah,
And
I
if you're
battle-
not taking something and thinking about it, maybe
Do
talk
it.
about it as an option.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
battle
if
with
you can be
depression.
feeling better, why not?
What was that, Kat?
I think Doug was going to say something.
Okay.
I was just going to say I battle with depression, and recently I've started getting anxiety. And how do I deal with it? I try to live in the moment. I try not to future trip. I try not to worry, but I live alone, and we all know it's progressive disease. And so I really have to keep a tight grip on where my mind is in terms of worry. And sometimes it doesn't work so well, and sometimes it works okay, but I take, so somebody in the chat just said, what antidepressant does everyone take? I take Wellbutrin. For me, it works most of the time to help me not get super down. But I've considered adding something else to the mix. And I have my annual physical coming up tomorrow, so I'll bring it up to my primary care doc.
That's good. That's yeah, I think that's I take citalopram, and that was the first drug that was prescribed for me in dealing with Parkinson's. And that's the only pill I've never ever forgotten to take, because the level of anxiety that I experienced shortly before I was diagnosed, and then of course afterwards, scared me to death. Really scared me big time. So I totally changed a lot of my life back in those days. But that just having that under control is real important. So if you don't, and you feel at all anxious or depressed, definitely talk to your doctors about it, because that is key to your survival with Parkinson's. And we all know it's not easy just to walk through a day with Parkinson's. So anybody else on the panel want to?
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick and just say something about the medication questions. It's just really important that you consult with your health team, your entire care team, about what you might consider taking. And you know, it's important to talk to people broadly about what, especially the antidepressant type of medications, because they can interact badly with some other or in complicated ways with other treatments. So be very cautious when you approach those things, and do talk to your care team.
And I also, just as a clinician who prescribed this medicine a lot, in general, this medicine works best in combination with other tools, things like therapy and counseling and exercise. And so I don't want anybody to get the idea that, you know, you take a pill and then suddenly you're happy. It like everything else, it works in tandem. And like Chris said, it's really important to talk to your healthcare provider. If we had the answer or the pill, Heather is giggling. She'd be the first one to tell you.
On a new drug, one that doesn't. It's like drugs don't work, man. Speaking of drugs, or
I just want
medicine,
one drug that works for everything. That's all.
yeah.
It's
Speaking
in
of
those books
medicine,
behind you.
oh yeah, I'm trying to look really studious, really smart with my virtual library. Whoops. Hello. Anyway, the drug that I see most often is EPIONE, something ending with that lately, because it's stretching the life of my Cinemet, which loses its efficacy over time. And it turns out that in Greek mythology, the Epione is a soothing character who helps heal. Go figure, all these wonderful names, medicines. But the real problem is that we have so much grief and loss. I mean, how do you reconcile grief and loss? Or can you? Can you maybe reconcile it? Or because there's really no way to give it meaning and purpose sometimes. It just is. It's part of life. The agony and the ecstasy. And so we find ways spiritually or mentally or maybe emotionally to try to deal with that. Like Kat was saying, we call a friend. We talk with people, we read. Here we are right now. This is a support group. So thanks for this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's really important. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sort of a delayed processor. It takes me time to really recognize how I'm feeling. I usually try to deal with my problems with efficiency and efficacy. Like, there's a solution to this, I just haven't found it yet. And so it's taken me some time, but all of you know, I lost a marriage, which actually in hindsight, it was a blessing. Thank God, I'm so much happier now. And I have a really wonderful partner. But, you know, I attended a talk by an Olympic athlete the other night, and he was talking about his physical, before he was ever diagnosed, he was talking about the changes that he noticed in his performance. And it's weird that it's been so many years, but my ex-husband used to criticize me all the time that I was lazy, that I wasn't trying hard enough because of the metabolic component, not the tremor, but the metabolic fatigue component. I couldn't exercise the way my friends could exercise. I would get winded on any kind of hike, like unbearably winded. And I remember even at the World Parkinson's Congress, I was walking in with a woman to the convention center. She was a presenter and a MD or whatever. And she said, wow, I wouldn't even know that you had Parkinson's. And then we started up walking up that dinky little hill and steps to the convention center. And we were like halfway across the concrete slab, and I'm sucking wind. And she said, oh, now I can tell. And it's weird, but I get comfort from knowing, like when Amber said that she was relieved, like there's an explanation for what's going on. And it's so interesting to me that so much of what my husband used to criticize me for, and I can give you a long list, which I will not, but they're all symptoms. They're all symptoms of the disease, and that there's nothing kind of fundamentally wrong with me as a person, as a soul, as, you know, it's important for me to try to unlatch my identity from my body. Not easy to do.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rob.
Crystal mentioned in the chat that she broke her hip last year, and getting back has been very hard. I can sympathize with that. I broke my leg on March 31st, and it's really kept me from exercising. And for those that don't know, I've had a couple other surgeries in my other foot, and it's been almost 7 months now of just idle time waiting for the healing process to go. And it's hard, but you got to stay positive. You got to stay optimistic.
Yeah, did you have something? Okay.
Amber does it.
Amber does.
Okay, sorry, Amber.
So I think I'm the opposite. I've never considered myself an optimistic person, but I think never have I ever considered myself an optimistic person. But I hear it from people all the time that I handle it so well, or that they couldn't cope with it the way that I do. But I think I just do it on a lighter end, making fun of it, because that's just the way that I cope with things. And at the same end of it, oh, I lost my train of thought. It disappeared. Does that ever happen to anybody?
Oh,
All the time.
Never.
Constantly.
Amber, I want to ask you a question, because I have found your what do they call it, TikToks or your reels or whatever, so funny and so right on, that I how do you turn to that? I mean, I'm so impressed by that. So I think you have a great sense of humor, or at least a sense of humor that really speaks to me. And I find that amazing. And the fact that you had that like right off the bat has really been inspiring to me. And I think to a lot of people. So is that just always been your way?
Yeah, I feel like whenever my dad has told me something serious, he's always like halfway laughing. I just don't think that we know how to cope with things. He'll be telling me something horrible, but he's got a smile on his face, and I'm like, "Are you kidding, or are you serious right now? Like, I don't understand what's going on."
You do great deadpan.
Yeah, so
No, no.
I think it's just the way that we do things in my family. Um, but yeah, I think that that's one of the things that's helped me is making jokes about it, laughing about it. I mean, it's not funny to most, but I mean, what else can you do? If I'm not laughing, I will sit there and cry. And I mean, I know a lot of people think that all I do is joke about it, but I mean, there's been days where I've been really dark, and the apathy kicks my butt daily, but the depression has crept in there once or twice, and that's it's hard to kick. And I think that I know a lot of you have talked about grieving the past, but I don't think I've done that. I think more I try not to think too far into the future is what helps me. I try to look for
Staying
stuff to look
present.
forward to, but not to look too far into the future, because then I start like, oh my God, how bad is it going to be then? And I will spiral quickly.
With you. Totally with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too. And Amber, I want to add something to that because I think that that's important not only in like it's helpful in thinking about things like injuring your leg, like if I sprain my ankle all the time, it's like a regular occurrence for me. And if I think about like if that happens and I start thinking about what is all the things I have to do now because of my ankle, I get really bogged down. And so I think that's true for thinking about Parkinson's generally, but also in specific instances, like when Doug broke his leg, or when I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the person who said they had broken their hip, but that in those instances, if you start going too deep into the future, you can really get trapped. And I think it's got to be kind of one day at a time and try to move forward incrementally and adapt to the changes as they come. And sorry, I think somebody, maybe it was Brian, did you raise your hand while I started to talk?
No, but you're great. That's not an issue. I wanted to echo what Chrissy said, because I think it's so important that, this is part of our brain change. It's not something that we're necessarily bringing upon ourselves. It's within the chemistry of the brain also. So there's a lot of aspects to it, but I think that's really important. And then with getting treatment, I think the biggest thing that's helped me is not so much just the antidepressants or whatever, but it's to have therapy, to have somebody to talk with about the challenges, that getting that out there. And finding a psychologist is like dating. You're going to have some really bad ones and you're going to have some really good ones. And I've heard people say, oh, I tried once and it was horrible. And that's their whole take. It's like, no, you've got to try again. And it's okay to just take one appointment and yeah, that's not for me. But that's really important. I think is along with the medication, it's kind of what Kat was saying about, you have to do the work with the exercise. And for me, at least right now, with the level of depression I'm dealing with, to have a psychologist to talk with really helps. So just want to kind of echo some of those, because those all tie in.
Christy.
So when I was trying to find my first psychiatrist, I never actually found one. I ended up finding this community. So it brought me to some local people that brought me to some more people, to some other people, and finally here. So, I mean, that just kind of worked out for the better.
Yeah, and I responded to someone in the chat a few moments ago that was saying, they don't know where to go, that they were diagnosed just recently. I think she said she was in her early 60s, got a couple of grandkids, that kind of thing. I said, reach out to us, reach out to our ambassador group. That's really what we're here for. We don't pretend to have any of the answers, and our answer may not be the right answer, but we can guide you somewhere to help you get some help with that. So again, feel free to tap into this network, like Christy was saying. It's very invaluable. And I want to be clear, not everyone is an optimist, right? I mean, we all know that, but the whole idea about humor really cracks into it really well. And I've always enjoyed that part. That's the way we've always been around our house has been, making jokes about it. And sometimes they're not funny, but they are funny in a way. So it's helped me come to terms with my mortality. I think that's important also to understand that this disease is not going to go away. It's not going to get better, but I got a lot of life left to live, and I'm going to try to keep doing that best I can. And so you'll hear us talk a lot about exercise. And I want people to understand that exercise isn't necessarily always just about your Parkinson's symptoms, and again, just your motor symptoms primarily, although it does help with your non-motor symptoms. But exercise is also about keeping you in somewhat better shape to survive all the other things that you're going to get hit with. So I preached that for years, and I got hit big time this year. So that's helped me keep my feet on the ground, my head in the air. And, I wake up in the morning and I'm seeing flowers and not roots, and that's important to me. So anyway,
Not roots.
Heather.
For someone that's been through so much hell, you're looking good, Tom.
Yeah.
I
Thank
gotta
you.
say, I'm really impressed with you and with the grace and the perseverance that you've shown. I'm really impressed. Can I also say there are some things that are harmful to us in our community, such as, oh, you look great though. Or you look so young. Or how about when there are certain things people will say like, oh, I just exercise hard and I go off my meds. You just need to exercise differently.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
what did you just say? Come again? I'm like, how long have you had this disease? And do we have the same? I don't think we're talking about the same thing. Because if it were that easy, it's like, gee, I never thought of that, or they'll say, just change your diet. There's a guy on the internet who's very outspoken about this. I can't say any names, but I've challenged him many times, publicly and privately, and just keeps coming with it. He just says, all you gotta do is exercise. I go, okay, yep, no problem, man. I give up. So there are things. What are some things that have been tossed around to y'all?
Cinnamon on my feet.
What?
Yeah, cinnamon on my feet.
What's explanation for that one?
That
How's
has
that supposed to
helped my
work?
symptoms.
Oh,
Cinnamon or cinnamon?
Yeah,
drink.
Yeah, I know. Cinnamon.
Cinnamon
I know. I
bun.
asked that. Isn't that funny? Cinnamon.
Enough toast
I'm
up
willing to
no
even
butter.
try cinnamon on my feet, but my guess is it's not going to work as well than in my mouth and in my digestive
Your
tract.
rugs will be so dirty.
And I'm always intrigued too that people will just that they offer, or that you don't look like you have Parkinson's.
right. What does
know, I
Parkinson's
know.
look like?
I know. And that, yeah. And I don't know quite how to answer that. And what I like to say is, if you think I look good now, you should have seen me before Parkinson's.
There you go.
I love that.
Baby.
I mean, how do you answer that? Thank you. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I love
But
that.
it's interesting. It's and it's very common, and I think people don't know what to say, and so they feel like that might be a compliment. And yeah, but I do I like all of the suggestions that people have. People mean well, but
Mhm.
Doesn't always come across well.
doesn't always come across well.
So my two favorite things were, once I was going for my first mammogram, and the nurse was, oh, you're too young to have Parkinson's. Oh, thanks. My brain didn't get the memo. I was left off the message. And then my cousin emailed me and said, oh, I hope you get better soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get better soon. Don't worry.
Right. Or isn't there a medicine for that? And I think at times too, I don't know if the other panelists feel that way. There are times when I have energy to try to share information, like it's partly being an ambassador, share information about what it's like to have Parkinson's. I like to say that to anybody that'll say, but you don't look like you have Parkinson's. And I said, well, there's a lot more Parkinson's looks than then also is what I'll say. But there's other times that I don't want to discuss it, right? I don't want to take on the education of everybody.
Exactly.
And because that's exhausting. It is exhausting. I think it's constantly having to explain when you don't always have a lot of energy already, to be out at the market and shaking but oh, you can't have Parkinson's. I don't have the spoons. I just came to get some rice and beans and some broccoli. I want to go home. You know? So yeah.
I
I
was
don't
just
want to
telling
use
somebody that it's
Sorry.
sorry, Christy. I was just telling somebody that Parkinson's is so hard because you have to have a disease that you work at, because you have to educate, because there's so many people that don't know anything about it, or say stupid things, or ask questions that could be hurtful to some people. So why couldn't I just get a disease like, I don't know, that everybody knows about, so I don't have to answer questions all day? And we're all here as ambassadors, or trying to raise awareness or working in advocacy, but could I have gotten something that I didn't have to work so hard at?
Careful what you wish for, right? I,
Right?
yeah.
That's
I
I think-
sometimes get frustrated with that too, just the level of effort it requires to deal with the disease. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, can I just live a normal life? That's my biggest frustration, is I just feel like I have to start going to speech therapy soon, because depending on the day, I'm thick-tongued, or my mouth isn't working, or I'm starting to choke and have swallowing issues, or I sound like I have a frog in my throat because my vocal cords won't close. And it's like, I've been to, physical therapy off and on for years now. Now I got to start speech therapy. And it's like, it's really frustrating that you have to spend all this money and go to all these therapists to do what you used to take for granted. That's really frustrating to me. It gets very aggravating.
I think that's why they say Parkinson's is a life sentence and not a death sentence. People told me that when I was first diagnosed, and I kind of took that to heart, and I get it now. The other thing I wanted to add to that real quick is Parkinson's is the kind of disease that you can sort of keep up with. As you're needing to learn about it, you can learn, and it's at a kind of a nice, I think, a gentle pace, as opposed to some of the other things I've dealt with this year. It's like getting run over by a train. You don't have time to read about it. You've got to make a decision in a split second to save your life or to save your integrity in some cases. So I really came to appreciate Parkinson's this summer, because I was thinking I was having fun living with Parkinson's. I don't like this other stuff. So dare I say that, but it's really kind of how I felt as I was coming out into the fall. But anyway, Brian?
I just wanted to say, one of the things about looking at Parkinson's and somebody saying, you look good today or something like that, I usually just say, well, the meds are working really well. But also, I think, to avoid some of the rabbit holes that we've talked about in here, is I got taught this by somebody in the Davis Phinney group here, but avoid the used tos. If you go down that hole, that's just a hole, and it's just going to go down deeper and deeper. I like what people are saying about looking towards the future. That's the most important thing. And then talking about the speech, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Robin, because I've done speech therapy in the past, and to me, it's the hardest thing to do. It's harder than therapy.
Great.
But it's also the most worthwhile, because it teaches you to swallow better. It teaches you a lot of proactive stuff.
Yeah.
And like now I'm getting the tongue tremor, which I don't know if any of you have had that, because you get tremors all over the place, but it's really weird, because I start to say a word and then my tongue gets stuck up there kind of flapping away or something. But speech therapy helped the last time I had that. So there's just a lot of benefits to that. So I just kind of wanted to echo some of those thoughts. And then the last thing, because everybody's talking about how it changes things, the one comment I make as I notice things changing, I remember Michael J. Fox saying, Parkinson's is the gift that keeps on taking.
Yeah.
You look at it lightly.
Can argue that.
So I want to jump back to something that happened that somebody mentioned in the chat, which was the complication of differential diagnoses and how to navigate that level of uncertainty. Because not only does Parkinson's keep taking, and what it takes can change, but at some points it's not even clear that you're dealing with Parkinson's directly. Maybe you're dealing with an atypical Parkinsonism. So I'm wondering if anybody has any perspective on that. I would just say one quick thing is that, you know, it looks to me like that's a future looking consideration on some level, right? What exactly the diagnosis is in some sense, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but you can take action today, regardless of what you know with certainty or don't know with certainty. And I think that it's so challenging when you're faced with uncertainty on any level. And I'm just wondering if anybody has any perspective on how to navigate those sorts of uncertainties. Brian.
Well, now with the back troubles that I'm dealing with and the impairments that are happening because of it, and it's kind of began a cycle, it's hard to know what's Parkinson's and what's the back, because they found a piece of my disc just got wedged into my nerves and you know, might go away or not. But that's that. But then I'm having difficulties walking. I'm having all these other things. And it's like, okay, so what's Parkinson's and what's not? And, you know, nobody can answer that, but at least I have that dialogue with my doctors and my neurosurgeons and orthopedists, as well as my MDS. And then we kind of find that medium in between. And the best thing is, you know, when you're in doubt, just talk about it. And at the same time, physical therapy works on both avenues. So it's because you can't always differentiate. Sorry. Yeah, Kat.
I just think it's really important that if things aren't feeling right or feeling better, or we're taking the advice of our providers, and to keep speaking up, we need to be our own advocates. We need to be our own scientists. We need to not, if we aren't getting relief from the tools that we are trying, we need to ask for more tools. And I think that sometimes even ourselves, we tend to say, oh, it's just Parkinson's. Oh, it's just Parkinson's. Well, it's not always Parkinson's. You know, we have definitely a neurologic system, and it might be Parkinson's. But if things aren't better with the usual Parkinson's tools, it's important to keep bringing it up. It's important to advocate for yourself in a clear, concise, and consistent manner, because we will have back degeneration if we're old enough, live long enough to have an older back, right? If we get the privilege of old age, we probably will have vision issues. If we live long enough with grace, maybe we will get things like other chronic illnesses, you know? I'm trying to, instead of dreading that process and be sad with every process, I'm trying to remember it's a privilege that I've made it to 50 some odd years old now, right? You know, I'm trying. I'm sad about it. I'm sad that I need to go from the smaller pill box to now the giant pill box. and I'm sad that that I'm learning a lot about off time. But I am still grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to try to contribute. And so I'm trying to learn the balance of grief and loss, and also trying to move forward with having goals to help some of the apathy. Does that make sense? Putting some things on the calendar,
right on.
Scheduling something with family, eating the ice cream some of the time. I mean, I'm really trying to do less dairy and sugar, but gosh, there's nothing like a soft serve from Dairy Queen. Oh, right?
Yeah. Christy?
Gift.
Even if it is PD, you shouldn't be satisfied if your meds aren't working right, if things aren't working right. You should always go and check with your doctor, because there's always other meds that can be added on in addition to meds that you're already taking. So,
you know, when you meet with your doctor, it should be a conversation, not a, oh, please tell me what I need to do kind of thing. I've always held that tact, and I interview my doctors before I even go to them. I'll have a established care meeting with them, so I can understand that they understand me. And that's so important. That's so important. And so when you go to your doctor, you're talking to them about what you want to do, what I want to do to them, and I want them to help me get to this place if it's possible. And that's been a great deal. So when I was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension this summer, I was like, how in the hell do I get that? I mean, how does that just happen to me? I would think I would see this coming. And my neurologist or my MDS said, well, I asked her, I said, can this be related to Parkinson's? She goes, no. Are you sure? And she stopped for a minute and looked at me, and I said, how can it not be related to Parkinson's when it really deals a lot with the diaphragm and the stiffness of my diaphragm and being able to breathe? And she's like, you could be right. I'm like, well, I think I might be right, because I'm not a doctor, but I am a doctor. I mean, I have learned this. This is my life. It's my disease. And I tend to really dive in deep into what could be affecting me. So we've had this ongoing conversation. I really like her. She's a great gal. And we've really trying to study this and figure out if it can be a problem related to Parkinson's. So it goes a lot to what you said earlier, Robin, about not being able to walk up a hill.
Yep.
I couldn't go 10 feet. I couldn't go 10 feet without losing my breath this summer. And I've never been like that in my life. And I thought, something can't be right here. Anyway.
I remember one of my very first webinars with you guys. We were talking about exercise, and someone put in the chat, how can you exercise when you can't even breathe?
Mm-hmm.
I just remember that chat. I think Kat read it out loud, and I've always thought of that.
I definitely think that breathing obviously is connected to Parkinson's. We all know that. It used to be when I was younger, it would be, I describe it like this. If I start to run, my body takes off running, and my heart and lungs are going, whoa, what are you doing now?
Exactly.
Let us catch up.
Exactly.
My body's been one step behind my brain.
Right.
And that's your body. I liken the whole thing with pulmonary hypertension is much different than what I'm talking than that. But anyway, I think they are somehow connected, but you just deal with it.
I like when your knees remind you, do you know how old you are? What do you think you're doing? Get off the trampoline. You're going to pee your pants. Wait, I'm already peeing my pants. I'm not even on the trampoline yet. What is happening? Like, it's like we're aging faster than our peers. What's happening, guys? And yet there's some fun stuff that you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, when life gets shorter, don't you take more risks that are actually kind of fun? I'm not talking about jumping out of a plane, Joni Lowe. I'm talking about, like, just the little things, like the kid that said he loved me the other day, walking down the street. I was like, oh, I love you too. How great is this? Now we can savor things more. And here
I found that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been misidentified as an optimist because I have, taken advantage of the silver lining of Parkinson's. I'm as pessimistic as they come, and my sister is as optimistic as they come. And we realized we saw a documentary on it, and it's like, optimists don't want to know the obstacles. They just feel down the road, they feel like they'll be able to encounter them when they get to them. And if you give them a lot of information up front, they get very overwhelmed and depressed. Pessimists are the opposite. They want to know all the bad information that's coming so that they can plan for it to overcome it. And so I think that I am a pessimist by nature. I'm in a pessimistic job, but that's what fueled my wanting to be a 10 on the scale of learning as much as I could to try to forestall or avoid what I could. And I do think there's a lot to be said for diet and exercise. If I hadn't done that, I was in way worse shape when I first got diagnosed, but there are limits. If it was only diet and exercise, I would be healed. So there are limits. It does help, but there are limits.
Definitely the case. And I think we all experience it. We're going to experience it. And there are some, like the silver lining things that you talked about. My silver lining is the pace with which my life goes today. It's slowed down so much. And that has also taken a lot of workload off because I simply can't get it all done in a day. So if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. It's just the way it goes. So thanks, Heather. You opened my eyes on that one for sure. And it's been nice in that sense. So I think we're getting close to the magic hour, or
we still got a few minutes.
Another few minutes.
We're approaching. I want to jump in with something that that I just learned from Heather, like right now. I learned something just in this very moment because Heather just made me laugh when she said it was something like you're going to pee your pants or something. I did not expect that to be the next words that came out of Heather's mouth. And I just realized that one of the things that you know, since this whole conversation was premised on someone observing that, you know, our humor is sort of sometimes makes it seem like we're experiencing something different than some other people who live with Parkinson's. But I think that it might just be a way of approaching the unexpected, because that's if you can find the pleasure in something that comes up that surprises you, like what Heather just said to me, or not to me, but to everyone. That's where humor comes from. Maybe, I don't know if that's true, but it seems like it might be, that humor is when something surprises you. And if you can maybe laugh at the things that Parkinson's does to you when it's appropriate. I mean, sometimes it's not funny at all, but some of the surprises are kind of funny. Like well, for me, I drop things all the time, and I need to learn to laugh at that, because it's always taking me aback. You know, doing my laundry takes me like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's really good points. I have the same thing. My favorite thing right now with Parkinson's is dyskinesia, and if you haven't noticed, that's why I'm moving all over the screen. But especially when I talk, so the faster I talk, the more I move. It really gets to be kind of fun. But the best thing about it is, it's one of the best weight loss programs I've ever dealt with. So
I was going to say about Chris's comment about where things just come in suddenly. I was in the hospital, and the nurse was going to perform something, and she had to get something really quick, and she had all these needles and stuff on my chest. She says, "Hold real still. I'll be right back." And my wife's been telling me that for years, because I was shaking anyway. I think that's the humor is it's got to be present in your thoughts, that you can't take everything too seriously.
Yeah. You lose the perfectionist real quick.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Don't sweat the small stuff.
exactly.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Amen. Well said. Well said. And it's all small stuff, right? So much of it. I think that's part of it too with Parkinson's, that you narrow down what's really important.
Yeah,
Chris-
big
Christy
things can
Jack.
become smaller.
Yeah.
Like I used to get stressed out about work and stuff. I don't really care. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting upset about. It's not worth getting stressed about. Who cares? I turn off my work stuff at 8 o'clock at night, because you know what? Because I can't actually do anything past 8 o'clock at night because of Parkinson's, but I just don't want to. It's just, I'm done. So it's letting me set boundaries.
One thing that I've been doing, you know, I do the laughter yoga stuff, and so I've gotten really big into the laughter stuff, but I've just noticed people's smiles more. And so when I see somebody smiling, just really beautiful smile, and I don't care what they look like physically, I just say, wow, you've got a beautiful smile. I find that smile back from that just makes me feel 100% better. Just noticing nice things and saying something nice to somebody can really get you out of the humdrum.
Dopamine release, serotonin release. Doug mentioned don't sweat the small stuff, and author Richard Carlson was on a flight in 2006 when he had a blood clot and died instantly. So it's true, and he lived full on. I met him before, and he really lived. So you know what? It's all about now. We don't know when we're going to go. We don't know what's ahead. We know that we have more pain than some people, maybe less than others. And here we are. We're all making this work. The human experience is extremely complex, and it's hard to have relationships. I will put a plug in for one thing. Speaking of what Doug said about not sweating the small stuff, get rid of things that you cannot carry anymore, that don't belong to you, if you can.
Amen.
However you can do that.
Emotional things, physical things, book things, house things. I've learned a lot about that.
Yep.
Stripping back to the very, very bare minimum.
Minimal.
Whatever doesn't fit in the trailer doesn't go.
Right now, it's true. Although we did just buy a shed.
And not to keep the trailer in.
Talks.
True confession.
I don't know, Kat. I'd go for the indoor plumbing over the shed anytime.
It's all small stuff.
We're going to build a house. I'm just happy to have running water, people. It's happened. So I appreciate you all so much.
Here, here.
And I really appreciate, we want people to know we're really listening to your comments, and it matters to us what you think, and we want to be really there for you. So we can never get to everybody's questions, but we certainly try. So thank you for tuning in.
And I'll remind you again, reach out. Don't be at all shy about reaching out to us. Our email are all on the internet. So go to the ambassador page at www.dpf.org and you can find the ambassador that's near you or may have something in their expertise level that appeals to what you need. And that's a great resource. And we all love doing that.
Yes.
And if you can't find a way to get a hold of somebody you're looking for, you can always email blog@dpf.org, and that'll get to either myself or Sam, who has been awesome in the chat today. Thanks for that, Sam.
Yeah, thank you,
And,
Sam.
I just want to plug our next meetup, which is November 16th. We'll meet again. It's always the third Thursday, and we'll get the recording of this published as soon as we can. And thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks, everybody.